Welcome back to the Milwaukee Brewers franchise here in MLB 15, the show. This is episode 6, and this episode, before we hop into today's game, we are going to be going over the All-Star game. We're not going to be playing it. We are going to be going over who made it on each side, and who our team made on each side, and then also, leading up into our next game, we passed the trade deadline, so we are going to be talking about who got dumped off, who got acquired by this Brewers team. So first things first, the Milwaukee Brewers, heading into the All-Star game, had two players, Jonathan Lucroy and Jean Segura. They're only All-Stars, both of them starters, however. So for the National League, their starters, starting from starting pitcher, is Zach Greinke, or most highly voted players for each position. So starting pitcher is Zach Greinke. Relief pitcher is Steve Cizek. Closing pitcher is Mark Melancon. Catching is Jonathan Lucroy. First base, Paul Goldschmidt. Second base, Anthony Rendon. Third base, Maikel Franco. Left field, or shortstop, Jean Segura. Left field, Christian Yelich. Center field, Andrew McCutchen. Right field, Bryce Harper. And then flip things over to the American League side, and their starting pitcher is Felix Hernandez. Their relief pitcher is Jake Petricka from the White Sox. Their closer is Luke Gregerson from the Stros. And then catching is Russell Martin from the Blue Jays. First base, Miguel Cabrera. Second base, Jose Altuve. Third base, Corey Seager. Shortstop, Troy Tulowitzki. Left fielder, Preston Tucker. Center fielder, Jacoby Ellsbury. And right fielder is Jose Bautista. And now it's time to talk about probably the most exciting time in baseball, and that is, well, besides the postseason, I'd say, and that is the trade deadline, where there's the hot stove. People get traded. The hot stove's more of an off-season thing, but people get traded, and all kinds of crazy stuff happens. And this Brewers team, despite being round 500, like a few games under 500, heading into the All-Star break and the trade deadline, well, that wasn't what I wanted to do. I know that they were really overperforming. I didn't expect this team to play that well, and this team is not that good. It definitely still has pieces that you need to sell off, or you can sell off. So heading into the trade deadline, that's what I wanted to do. I did not let our record, which was very surprising and overachieving, basically deter me away from my original plan, which I stuck to. So the first trade we made was Ryan Braun. The face of the Milwaukee Brewers has been shipped off to the New York Yankees in return for a potential center fielder, 66 overall, Mason Williams. So, we ship off a 31-year-old veteran outfielder, dump off all that salary to the Yankees, and we get in return a guy who's an A potential and is going to be in the 70s in just a few months, if you ask me. And that is Mason Williams. He's hitting .271 with a .324 OBP, 1 home run, 26 RBI, and 7 stolen bases in 59 games played down in AAA with Scranton Wilkes-Barre so far in the season. Now the plan for Mason Williams is to have eventually take over in one of the outfield spots, probably next season. Right now he's just going to be sent down straight to AAA and just let him work on his craft down there and progress down there for a season. Because right now we have our lineup pretty much set once we're done trading, but Mason Williams is going to be in AAA for the rest of the season. And then you look at our next trade, and that is trading Adam Lind, our first baseman, and 2 minor leaguers in return for Jake Marisnick, who I guess earlier in the season got traded to the Blue Jays, and then we traded for Marisnick while he was on the Blue Jays. So Adam Lind is heading back to Toronto, and Jake Marisnick is heading to Milwaukee. And he is going to be our starting center fielder, as Santana will shift over to right field. And there will no longer be a platoon between Peterson and Santana. Santana's just going to be the everyday right fielder, while Jake Marisnick is going to play center field. He's a 78 overall, B potential, 24 years old. He's hitting .280 with a .338 OBP, 9 home runs, 33 RBI, 8 stolen bases in 70 games played in the majors this season. So Jake Marisnick is definitely a solid young acquisition for Adam Lind and 2 minor leaguers. The next trade that the Brewers went out and did is Jim Henderson, our top relief pitcher, was traded off with a minor leaguer to the Los Angeles Dodgers in return for Scott Van Slyke. So the Brewers went out and dumped off veteran Adam Lind, and in return, they got back a solid first baseman as well in Scott Van Slyke. who is a 75 overall C potential. I believe Adam Lynn was like a 77, so dropped down 2 overalls, and you got a younger guy as well. So Scott Van Slyke, he's 28, not exactly 22, 23, 24, but 28 is not too bad either. So we got Scott Van Slyke. He's hitting .250 with 338 OBP, 6 home runs, 28 RBIs, and 52 games played down in AAA, and he's going to be called up to be the starting first baseman here for the Brewers, as he's going to take Adam Lynn's spot. And he's able to hit against lefties and righties, so he's going to be in both lineups. Now, the next trade we made, which I think is arguably the best trade we are going to make, because this guy is going to be groomed to take over at a certain point. Now, I think all the trades we made are good, and I could even argue all of them are great trades for us and the other team, but this one I think is the best for us, and that is we traded Francisco Rodriguez, K-Rod, our closer. We dumped him off to the Texas Rangers, who, well, they don't really have a closer. I believe their closer's like Sean Tollison, who's not exactly like a top-tier closer, so they pick up K-Rod to strengthen up their bullpen, and we pick up Keone Kela, who is a 78 overall B-potential relief pitcher who is 21 years old. So in return for like an 81 overall B-potential, like 36-year-old reliever, whatever he is, or closing pitcher, we get in return a guy who's 21, has a B potential, and a 78 overall. So it's realistic to say by the end of the season that Keone Kela could improve so much, he's going to be already better than Francisco Rodriguez, as he could be 81 plus by the end of the year. And we're going to eventually groom him to take over as the closing pitcher, but he's not going to be inserted into the closing spot right now because I want to just keep him in like a less serious role to just kind of ease his development until he gets better to care. And then maybe next year he takes over, maybe the next year after that. But as of right now, I'm going to put Corey Knebel or Corey Knievel. I'm kind of hoping it's Knievel, because then I can say it's Knievel, Evil Knievel, you know? But anyway, that's not the point. We've got Keone Kela in our bullpen now. And then the last trade we made was kind of just less important. We dumped off Kyle Loesch, who was in the last year of his contract, and that was sort of like not really a salary dump because it's a one-year deal, so it's just kind of, he would have been dumped off the books at the end of the season anyway. It was kind of just to make room on the roster because as of the trade deadline, we had Willie Peralta in our bullpen as a long reliever, and we had Kyle Loesch still starting, and I wanted Peralta as a B potential to get experience starting so he can improve his overall. So that's what I did. I moved Peralta back to the rotation, traded Loesch to the San Diego Padres in return for Dale Thayer, who was pitching down in AAA as a relief pitcher with the El Paso Chihuahuas, as he's a 74 overall C potential, 34 years old. Like I said, it was more of just kind of like a move Peralta to starting pitcher, get Loesch off the team, and I needed another relief pitcher since we traded away Henderson and Francisco Rodriguez, and Peralta was leaving the bullpen, so we needed another reliever, and Dale Thayer is that guy who's going to take that role in the bullpen. So after the trade deadline, there are some massive changes to the Brewers lineups, rotations, and bullpen, and those are, against right-handed pitchers, the lineup is shortstop Jean Segura, second base Scooter Gennett, catching is Jonathan Lucroy, first base Scott Van Slyke, left field Chris Davis, center field Jake Marisnick, right field Domingo Santana, and third base is Alberto Callaspo, and of course rounded out by the pitcher. While against left-handed pitchers, it's shortstop Jean Segura, catching Jonathan Lucroy, hitting second, first base Scott Van Slyke, left field Chris Davis, center field Jake Marisnick, second base Jeff Baker, right field Domingo Santana, third base Alberto Callaspo, and then the 9-hole is rounded out by the pitcher, obviously. And then flipping over to the pitching side of things, our rotation 1 to 5 is Matt Garza, Willie Peralta, Jeff Neiman, Jimmy Nelson, and Taylor Jungmann. Now, obviously, those aren't 1 to 5 as best to worst starters we have. Those are 1 to 5 as best to worst they were when opening day happened. And now guys have progressed, guys have gotten injured, guys have gotten traded, so it's kind of just the cycle of how we have the 1 to 5 going. 1 to 5 is not 1 being the best and 5 being the worst starter we have right now. It's just the cycle of what we have going right now. And then the bullpen is long reliever Tyler Thornburg was called up from AAA, And then the 3 middle relievers are Brandon Kinsler, Michael Blazek, and Dale Thayer. And then the setup men are Will Smith and Keone Kela. And closing is Corey Knebel, as he is another young B potential relief pitcher. We have as Knebel or Knievel and Kela are really going to be the future of this bullpen. So that's going to wrap things up for the trade deadline, the All-Star break, and the lineups and rotations and bullpen heading into today's August 8th game against the St. Louis Cardinals here for the Milwaukee Brewers. Good evening, baseball fans, and welcome to Miller Park here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, home of the 54 and 57 Milwaukee Brewers, as they play host to the 54 and 55 St. Louis Cardinals here in this early August ball game. Let's take a look at the St. Louis Cardinals starting lineup, and that is leading off is center field John Jay. Third base Matt Carpenter, left field Matt Holliday. Cleaning up is the first baseman Mark Reynolds, followed by right fielder Jason Hayward, shortstop Johnny Peralta, second base Colton Wong, and catching is Yadier Molina in the 8th hole. 9th is of course the pitcher, and then on the opposing pitcher is Willie Peralta. He's 4-11 with a 4.09 ERA in 24 games this season. Some of those relief, some of those starting. So not exactly the best record or ERA, but he's a young guy they're looking to improve this season. And now making his way to the plate to lead off this top half of the first inning in the ball game is John Jay. As Peralta gets set with a full count on Jay, here comes the pitch. As that's taken for strike 3 on the outside half, slider locks him up. And now there's one down as Matt Carpenter comes to the plate now. He's hitting 325, which that clip's good enough for third for the National League. Here comes the 1-1 from Peralta. That's a ground ball to first. Van Slyke gets in front of it, has some trouble with it, but recovers and steps in the bag as he recovers quick enough, and that's 2 down now in the top half of the first. As the 3-hitter is Matt Holliday now. 1-0 count on him. Peralta kicks, turns, and fires as that ball is ripped past Baker at second base. He dives for it, but it gets into center. Marisnick fields, spins, fires into the cutoff man, as Matt Holliday keeps the inning alive with 2 outs, and now he's on first. And Mark Reynolds comes to the plate now. In his last 4, he's 2 for 15. 0-1 count on him. The pitcher in Peralta, ground ball past Callaspo. Segura can't handle it, and that's going to be a single for Reynolds as Holliday moves it to second. So first and second now for the Cardinals with 2 outs, and Jason Hayward at the plate, who leads their team with home runs with 14. So 0-1 count on him. From the stretches, Peralta. At the weak hit ground ball to Baker, fields, tosses over to first, and that's the 3rd out of the top half of the first as the Brewers get out of it, not allowing any runs, but 2 hits, and it's 0-0 at the end of the top half of the first. Welcome back to the bottom half of the first inning. Let's take a look at the Brewers lineup, which is shortstop Gene Segura, catching is Jonathan Lucroy, first base Scott Van Slyke, left field Chris Davis, center field Jake Marisnick, second base Jeff Baker, right field Domingo Santana, and third base is Alberto Callaspo, then rounded up by the pitcher in the 9-hole. And the left-handed pitcher for the Cardinals gets the nod, Jaime Garcia. He's 6-8 with a 3.33 ERA in 21 games started, as he gets the nod from manager Mike Matheny here in this early August ball game. And here comes Gene Segura leading off this bottom half of the first inning, the speedster for this Brewers ball club. He digs into the batter's box with a 1-1 count, lefty on righty, as he drills that one to deep center field. That's back to the track. Jay goes there, and he gives it a leap, but that's gone as Gene Segura leads off this ball game with a home run, and the Brewers take a 1-0 lead on Segura's 6th home run of the season, as it's now a 1-0 Brewers lead. Correction, that's his 8th home run of the season, and now Jonathan Lucroy comes into the batter's box. Still no outs, obviously. The pitch to him is going to be grounded past third. Jump throw from Peralta in the gap, but Lucroy is able to beat it out as he has himself an infield single. Lucroy turns on the legs and beats out the jump throw, and now Scott Van Slyke comes up. The 1-0 count is swung on and popped up into right field. That's in foul territory, but Hayward is camped under it as he puts that one away for the first out of the inning, and Lucroy retreats back to first base. And now that will bring up the cleanup hitter in Chris Davis. Here comes the 1-2 from Garcia as Davis gets that one past Peralta into left field, so Lucroy moves up to second. Davis has himself a single, and now with one out, it's first and second for the Brewers as Jake Marisnick comes up to the plate. The man they required from the Blue Jays in exchange for Adam Lynn and a couple minor leaguers. Here comes the 0-2, and that's swung on and taken to deep left field. That's back. Holiday's at the track, and he catches that one at the wall as Lucroy will tag from second here. The throw is not in time as Lucroy avoids on the slide. And now it's first and third. Runners on the corners with 2 outs as Jeff Baker digs into the batter's box. He's had a disappointing season as the starting second baseman against left-handers. But here he comes through as that's going to get into left field and down for a base hit. Davis is heading to third. The throw is offline. And Baker's going to move into second on the throw as it's now a 2-0 ball game here for the Brewers. Domingo Santana comes up, 2 outs, second and third. And he swings through that one. That's strike 3 as that'll end the inning. But not before the Brewers tack on 2 is at the end of 1. It's Brewers 2, nothing Cardinals. Welcome back to the top half of the 5th inning here as Colton Wong digs into the batter's box. He's 0 for 1, grounded out in his last appearance. Here comes the 2-2 from Peralta as that's swung on and that gets past the diving glove of Callaspo at third base. Dove a little late and Wong's going to head himself into second base. He's in there standing up with a double to lead off this top half of the 5th inning. And now Yadier Molina comes up to the batter's box. Their 8-hitter. 3-1 count on him. The pitch from Peralta is going to be clubbed out into center field, but Marisnick is camped under it. He'll catch that one, but Wong is going to tag up and head to third base easily as he's on third now with 1 out in the inning. As that brings up the opposing pitcher in Jaime Garcia, who struck out in his last at-bat. First pitch to him is first pitch swinging, ground ball to second base. Baker Fields tosses over to first, but Wong is going to score on that as Garcia has himself an RBI and gets the Cardinals on the board. It's a 2-1 ball game now. John Jay, 3-1 count. Here comes the pitch from Peralta as that misses the outside half. Tried the same pitch he got him on into the first inning, but it's a ball instead. So we have runner on first now with 2 outs, and Matt Carpenter at the plate is 0 for 2 in the day. Peralta sets at the belt. Delivers the 0-1. There goes Jay. The late throw from Lucroy is going to get into center field, but Marisnick is there. And Jay is going to have to stay at second base. So 1-2 count now on Carpenter. Here comes the pitch. As that swung on and popped opposite way into left field, Davis is camped under it as he retires him in foul territory for the 3rd out of the inning. But not before the Cardinals tack on 1 as it's a 1-run ball game. 2 Brewers, 1 Cardinals at the end of the top half of 5. Welcome back to the bottom half of the 6th inning. Here is Brewers and Cardinals. It's still 2-1. Domingo Santana will lead off this inning against Jaime Garcia. 0-1 count as Garcia sets and delivers. And that's going to be taken opposite way past second baseman Colton Wong as Domingo Santana has himself a single to lead off this inning. And that'll knock Jaime Garcia out of the ballgame as well, as coming into the game for the 40th time this season is Matt Belize with a sub-4 ERA, just barely a 3.86, as he'll be facing Alberto Callaspo with a runner on first and no outs. As Callaspo gives this one a good ride into center field, but John Jay is right there as he puts that one away for the first out, and Santana has to retreat back to first. And now Luis Sardinez will come in to pinch hit for the pitcher. 1-0 count on him. Belize sets at the chest. Here comes the pitch. As that's taken down the right field line. The dive from Hayward, and it gets past him. And it'll get into the corner as Santana is heading into third and rounding third. He's going to head home. Sardinez into third. The slide, and Santana scores all the way from first base on the RBI pinch hit triple from Luis Sardinez. It's a 3-1 ball game now. As here comes the 2-2 to Sigene Segura. That's going to be taken out into left field. Caught by Holiday, but Sardinez will tag up and score easily as the throw goes to first for whatever reason. As it's now a 4-1 Brewers lead here in this bottom half of the 6th. As with 2 outs, Jonathan Lucroy will dig in. He's 1 for 3 in the day with a single and a run. First pitch of the at-bat to him is going to be taken opposite way into right field. Hayward is there as he gets that one into the gap. And he retires Lucroy for the third out of the inning, but not before the Brewers tack on 2, as it's 4 Brewers, 1 Cardinals at the end of 6. Welcome back to the top half of the 8th inning as Keone Kela comes in out of the bullpen. The newly acquired relief pitcher from the Texas Rangers for the 38th time this season will enter the ballgame. 1 out, full count on Holiday is popped up into right field. And Santana gets that one with ease, as that's 2 outs now in this inning. As Holiday is retired, and now that'll bring up Mark Reynolds. The cleanup hitter is 1 for 3 in this game with a single back in the first inning. 0-1 count on him as Kela sets and delivers. And you can kiss that one goodbye as Mark Reynolds got a hold of that one. And when he gets a hold of that one, or any pitch, it is going a long way. Mark Reynolds connects with that one, and it's now a 4-2 ball game. As Mark Reynolds just destroys that pitch, and Keone Kela now has 2 outs, working on Jason Hayward. As the 2-1 count's going to be popped up here into center field, Marisnik's camped under it. And Kela gets out of the inning as Marisnik retires him for the final out of the inning, but not before Reynolds strikes for 1. It's 4 Brewers, 2 Cardinals at the end of the top half of the 8th. Welcome back to the top half of the 9th inning as the Brewers and Cardinals are getting set to close this one out as Corey Knebel comes in for 55th time this season, the newly appointed closer after Alec Francisco Rodriguez was traded away. He's got a 2-2 count on Johnny Peralta. The pitch is swung through. That's the big banger. The 12-6 curve gets him. And that's 1 down here in this top half of the 9th in this 4-2 ball game. So 1 down now as Colton Wong digs in. 1-2 count. Here comes the pitch. Swung through the high cheese. That's 2 down now as back-to-back strikeouts for Knebel. And it's a 2-1 count now on Yadier Molina as that's swung on and popped up into center field. Marisnik is camped under it, and he'll retire Molina for the final out of this ball game, as that is how the cookie crumbles as the Milwaukee Brewers come away with the victory by a score of 4-2 over the St. Louis Cardinals in this one. Their newly revamped lineup, after dumping away all their pieces and acquiring a bunch of young guys, comes away with the win against the Cardinals and their devil magic. Player of the game for the Brewers is the starting pitcher, Willie Peralta. He went 6 innings strong, gave up 6 hits, 6 strikeouts as well, 6.66. And he was now improving to 5.11 on the season, and Knebel gets his 9th save, while Jaime Garcia drops to 6-9. Notables for the Brewers as well were Gene Segura with 1 for 3 with a home run and 2 RBI. Luis Sardinas had a pinch hit triple RBI. Jeff Baker was 2 for 4 with a double and an RBI. And Domingo Santana was 2 for 3 with a run in this Brewers 4-2 victory over their NL Central foe, the St. Louis Cardinals. As that being said, that'll wrap things up here for this edition of Milwaukee Brewers Baseball. I've been your host, Jerseyborn, and I'm saying goodbye.
All week, been round, all angry and crying. Well, it's how much can you yell? Hey, then I've been outside. Well, it's standing away